Hello and welcome to Hooked on Sunshine. This is some Sunday thoughts for you today. I've been doing a little bit of retrospect on why I feel like I am a customer service ninja. And I feel like I've had this skill most of my life. Some of that is just really just a personal skill kind of I was born with. Part of that's being that personal pleaser, but also on top of that, I've really honed that skill in a lot of different areas that I've been in. And I've been through some really, some traumatic experiences to make that skill be really strong. And then just some really personal experiences where I've had to really overcome and grow up in some areas and have used that in my day in, day out life. Do you and your significant other have a restaurant that you go to? And you really go to that restaurant not because they have the best food, but because they have a superb waitress. A waitress that is so amazing and she or he treats you so well, keeps the drinks coming, makes you laugh, gives you the privacy that you need, but ultimately just gives you the very best service that when it's time to like, hey, let's go grab a bite to eat, that's your favorite place to go. That's where you want to be. As a restaurateur, you might have some of the best food on the planet. But if you hire the worst waiters and waitresses, a lot of times they can run off the people that you're trying to bring in. And this is kind of my thought process for life in general. And so often we have this idea that, you're going to make the best business, you're going to recruit the best employees. But ultimately, if you're not treating people well, you're going to run people off. That can even work within your friendships in your life. So I had this thought today on becoming a customer service ninja, and that is really just kind of who I am in general anyway. And so I just wanted to go over a few tips with you guys. The post that you see on Hooked on Sunshine talks a little bit about retention of employees. And I will say right now, across this nation, it's like pretty much a known fact that people are leaving their jobs in just droves and droves of people. They say that the biggest reason that people are leaving is not being heard, not feeling like they're important, not having valuable connections while they're at work. And you can see how that can happen. We've all been in those jobs where you either have something maybe really personal happening and your employer just kind of, they poo-poo it. They don't consider that it's real. I've been off work before for employers where maybe I didn't feel good. Maybe I had to take a couple days off because I got the flu or whatever I had going on. The employers that I have really loved, adored, would do anything for, would bend over backwards for them, would work 17-hour days, turn around and come back in the next day, and who truly, it broke my heart when it was time for me to move on and leave and go to my next career opportunity, were those employers who, hey, sent me a quick text message or an email or a quick phone call saying, hey, I know you're out today. I just want to see if there's anything I can do for you. Thinking about you. Are you doing okay? I've had employers who've coordinated meals, who've sent flowers, whatever. And I'm not saying that you have to be that employer, but what's important to me is that me as a person, that I mattered to them. With my employees, I always want to reach out. I always want to say, hey, let me know if there's anything that you need me to do for you. Your information is important. If I'm going to make a big decision and change maybe a big company policy or something like that, I want to run it by my employees. I want to say, from your perspective, if you knew that we were going to change this policy, what kind of things would be important to you? I find that the thing that I've really honed in on is finding common ground. I feel like so often people assume that their opinion is the only opinion. And the truth is, how somebody else is going to take something, what somebody else needs in their life is totally unique to them. And so I would say becoming a customer service ninja in your life in general is going to be really helpful for you. So these are just some of my tips. And I'm just going to kind of run through them. I'm not going to make these really long because I think I do have a training series that's coming out on customer service, and I'll go into each one of those pretty specifically. I think that's really important. But just for today, let's just think through a few of those things. So tip number one, learn to coach, not yell or demand. How many of us have that employer who's a demanding employer? And so instead of somebody who coaches you, finds out what your strengths and weaknesses are, gives you opportunities to grow, really coaches you along the way, instead they're demanding or discouraging. Yeah, I don't think I have to go into more specifics with that. Know your audience. Dress and act appropriately. If I'm at the local bar and somebody's got a tank top and tattoos and piercings on, and maybe they're using foul language and, we're all laughing and joking and cutting up, that may be totally appropriate. And I could love that atmosphere. If that same atmosphere were in an office environment, and maybe they're, using, inappropriate language for that particular experience and things, it might like throw me off a little bit. So know who your audience is. Is your audience an older audience? Is your audience a younger audience? Can the people that are actually your product or employer type of audience, can they handle how they're being treated? Is that something that they're set up for? My husband is an underground miner, and I can tell you he could put up with things that in general from an office environment, I'm tough and I can put up with some of the things he talks about and puts up with. Would I want to? Absolutely not. I have become accustomed to people being polite, people being friendly, people giving you an opportunity to have your voice be heard, and the list goes on and on. So know your audience. If you're a teller at a local grocery store, make sure you're dressed appropriately because you're representing that company. And that company normally will have some kind of boundaries around how they want you to dress or how they want you to behave. Those things are important. That doesn't mean that personally, if at home you dress totally different, that's totally fine. But sometimes employers are trying to bring a certain ambiance to their product or to an atmosphere. And to be hired there, a lot of times you have to kind of go with that flow. So just thoughts, okay? Find common ground. I find this is really important, especially in areas where in the day and age that we are now, there are hot buttons about a lot of things. There are a lot of opinions that people have about politics or hot issues or things like that, that maybe you do or don't agree with. I always try to keep my political opinion out of my employer's circumstances. But one thing I do try to do for people who feel like they have to bring that into those circumstances is I try to find some common ground. The truth is it's pretty rare that I feel so strongly about something that I can't understand why maybe somebody with an opposite opinion feels differently than me. And a lot of times I might even agree with them in a lot of those areas. So from a customer service ninja point of view, I always try to find common ground with somebody. You can, as you're creating those environments and those relationships, a lot of times you can tell when you need to build a relationship that's a little maybe more lighthearted, or maybe it needs to be a little bit more serious. Sometimes I've had to come back at people with maybe a little bit of sarcasm, a little bit of comedy, because that tends to be their personality. So for each person, it's going to be a little bit different, but find some common ground. You do not have to have your opinion out there on everything. And the people that are trying to shove their opinion down your throat, find that connection with them by making some agreements. It's really powerful. Control your voice when in a difficult situation. Now, many of us have been, whether it be customer service, family oriented, or you're an employer, or maybe in some type of a leadership position, a lot of times you end up in circumstances that there could be a lot of conflict. Keeping that steady stream where your voice is, you don't have to raise your voice. I don't have to yell at you for you to hear my opinion. I can be the person that can quietly wait for an opportunity to talk. I don't have to be the person that talks over the top of everything and everyone. And when I talk, I'm trying to bring them back to exactly how I would like to be talked to. And that is talking with respect, talking slowly, concisely, clearly, and being polite as I'm doing that, regardless of what that conflict represents. Do not be disparaging. So often it's really easy to put something down, put an employer down, put another, if you're selling a product, put a different product down, put the business down the street down. Oh yeah, you don't want to go down there because of A, B, or C, That's not necessary. It's not necessary to tear something down so that you can build something up. Now, even if you have a product that might be better than the next door neighbor's product, it's okay to say, you know what, I think these are reasons that we actually are superior to that particular product. You don't have to go through the list of disparaging things. Often, most people don't want to hear all of that stuff unless you're doing some type of a review where you're actually doing a pros and cons list. And for most of us, in most circumstances that we're in our lives, I think it's important for us not to be disparaging of other people, of other products, of other departments. Be that person that people know that they're going to get the truth. I think the truth is really important, but I think it's also really important to do it with politeness, to do it with honesty, and to be as positive as you possibly can be. Treat customers and other employees with respect. Have you ever been somewhere where, somebody's trying to sell you a product or something, and then they're like, oh, and then, you probably dealt with John the other day, John's kind of a jerk, blah, 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 and he probably didn't help you, or, whatever that disparaging thing is. And then you're like, well, now, wait a minute. I don't like it when people talk trash about other employees. I don't like it when I'm talking to an employer and they talk trash about another employee that maybe is my colleague or my coworker, or even if I'm the leadership person and, you've got leadership people that aren't seeing any positive or good things in people, and all they do is point out the negative. There are appropriate places for truthful, really open conversations about those things. When that's becoming a really bad habit, and that seems to be all that you're doing, I think you need to do like a recheck. I think you need to look and have a little, what I would call a come to Jesus moment, and really identify for yourself, have you become that disparaging person? That's all that you see is the negative. Can you only see the negative in other people? And ultimately, is that the person that you want to be? Is that the person that brings employees and maybe customers to you? More than likely not. And if you're having some real trouble with success and growth, I think you might want to really rethink. Maybe you've fallen into some of those traps. Don't assume someone has skills in customer service. It can take a whole career to build up enough skills to truly be able to manage and speak well to people, be respectful to people in all circumstances, to sell products that maybe are difficult or have a lot of details. To be that person that people feel like they can come back to time and time again because they know they're going to get the right answer, or they're going to be told, listen, I may not have the answer to this, but I'm actually I'll find this answer out, and I am going to get back to you with that. Are you that person? Are you that person that has found that greatness? Some of us are born with kind of some customer service skills. Most of us are people pleasers that are born with something like that. But some of us have to learn this skill, and you can learn to respond correctly. For those of us who aren't born with that, and most of us that are born with that, there's still some tweaking that needs to be done, right? Because you're born being polite, sometimes people run over the top of you. Sometimes you have no idea how to set boundaries. So sometimes it's more than just being respectful and being kind. But sometimes service is natural for some of us. Service is really supernatural for me. However, through the last 30 years of my career, what I have had to learn is how not to let people take advantage of me, and how to stand my ground and say, I am really sorry. I'm sorry this is a rule that you don't agree with. It is the rule, though, however, for our company. And so I am going to have to ask for you, to abide by that, or to leave, or whatever that circumstance might be. It can be different for everything. I tend to be the person that people bring in when the hard conversations need to happen, because I can still do them politely. You don't have to be rude to somebody when you have a conversation where you're contrary. But that response can be learned. It's not something that is something that just has to be natural for people. So if you naturally don't have that, it's okay. It's a skill that we can actually teach it to you. Require your employees to go through training. So this is part of that. Don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions that people know exactly how to handle things in the way that you would want them to handle things. It's okay to expect some training out of them. And sometimes it's giving them some books for them to read. Sometimes it's actually for them to go to one-on-one training. Sometimes it's hiring a one-on-one personal development coach. Sometimes it's bringing somebody in, to do some overall staff training. And those are some of the things that we really recommend in areas where you need for them to be the very best that they can be so that your business can grow. Workplace and gossip do not mix. So we've all been at the local grocery store and we're waiting for service. and Janie and June are, sitting at the cash register, and they have to finish their gossip session about some friends of theirs or some people that they saw come through the line or whatever before they can actually get to you. Or they start ringing you up and they're actually still finishing up their gossip session. How many of you are like, oh my goodness, what are you doing? Some people really feel like that's just a normal part still of a normal part of doing business. And the truth is, there is absolutely no gossip in the workplace. If you want to go home and have drinks at your home later that night, and you're somebody who has friends and you guys want to trash some things or hash some things out or talk about, oh, did you see this or did you know this? Those are the appropriate places to do that. To do that in a public setting with other colleagues or in front of, as a leader, in front of your other employees, or especially to talk about other employees in front of, whether it be customers or other coworkers, that's not appropriate. And so I would hope that we've all grown to a place to understand that. And, in our day and age and in our world, like, chewing the fat and talking about people, there's big business in that. So, it becomes a normal, natural part of people's lives. But in business in general, keep that out of business. Find an appropriate place to have those conversations if that's something that you need to do. Personal confidence is a really big part of customer service. If you have employees that are insecure, who have their own personal development that they need to do, to just be, just socially be able to really exude that I'm confident enough to give you the answers that you need, to sell the product that I'm going to sell, to treat my other employees with respect. I don't talk over the top of people because my ego is huge or because I'm fighting to make sure I have an ego. I don't withdraw and become the wallflower when I might have some really valuable insight to bring to a conversation. So there's also some training that maybe could be done if you find that you end up with an employee that maybe is a little bit insecure in some areas and they need to have some personal growth. It's really important for customer service for somebody to feel just really strong about something and feel really confident that I am who I am, I'm confident with who I am, and I'm going to be able to accomplish this. It's just really a special and unique gift for people. So prioritize your own personal growth. Oftentimes your own employer, other colleagues, they're not going to prioritize this for you. A lot of times we're looking at what's going on with ourselves. And so a lot of times we don't see maybe what's happening with our other colleagues. As an actual leader and as a manager of whether it be a department or a company or whatever, maybe the CEO, maybe you're the one that's supposed to be looking for those things. Maybe you're the one that's supposed to be recognizing, like, ooh, you know what, that person might need just a little help in this area, and I'm going to get them the resources that they need so that they can grow in that, and not have it be something where it's disparaging or shameful that there maybe aren't at a place in their own personal growth that you want them to be. We all, we're not born perfect. We're not born great. We learn to be great. We aspire to be great. But sometimes it takes several steps. And if you see something in an employee and you see the opportunities of their growth, give them the resources that they need. Maybe it's a friend. I've had friends before have said, I didn't used to be good at taking compliments. And I've been in different types of employment where you had to practice not only taking compliments and giving feedback or criticism, but giving and taking that. And it can be really hard. That was an area that I really struggled in. I always kind of hid from it. I felt like it was, it would inflate my ego, or it felt selfish or cocky to be like, oh yeah, listen to the compliments. So I always like, oh yeah, no, you don't have to compliment me. I appreciate that. I had to get to a point where people are complimenting because they actually do feel sincerely that they want to say that you're doing a nice job in an area. And it's okay to say thank you. I appreciate that. I've worked really hard in being really good in some areas. And so when somebody recognizes that, I don't any longer pull away from that. It's thank you. I appreciate that. I almost always give a compliment in return because that's just kind of my personality. But for those of you who aren't good at taking compliments, practice that. Maybe you're not good at taking criticism. Practice that. So do some personal, prioritize your own personal growth in whatever area that is. Continually participate in areas of leadership and training. So often, one of the things that happens is that we get so busy in just getting our day-to-day work done that a lot of times we don't participate in areas that maybe our companies provide that allow us to be leaders. They allowed us to have a voice in different maybe policies and procedures that are being taken care of. Maybe we're supposed to be part of our union and our union leadership and the way they make decisions. So often we want to complain about how things are done or why things are done a certain way. But often there's opportunities for you to get involved and for you to actually make a difference in those areas and actually be able to say, hey, like this is something that I feel really strongly about. And I think I have some value to put on this. And so when there are some opportunities for growth, and sometimes it can be within your company, maybe you participate in some organizations outside of your company, be brave enough to jump out there and, be the PTA group leader, be the coach of the Little League team. Do the things that instead of sitting on the sidelines and just making comments about how, oh, you wish they'd be better, you wish they'd do this, or that you wish they'd do that, jump in there and be the one that is the one that's the leader. There's no reason that you can't be involved in leadership and training in many aspects of your life, but especially if you're somebody who's really aspires to grow. Be an example of greatness. In general, can somebody look at your life and say they're an example of greatness? They really go after the things that are important to them. They speak up and their voice can be heard, but in a polite and kind and a valuable manner where people actually will listen to what they have to say. Do you feel like they actually live by the things that they talk about? A lot of times people say one thing and do another. And the people I always end up respecting are the people that actually live what they say out of their mouth that is important to them. And those things are really important to me. So be an example of greatness in every area, personal, maybe in your religion, maybe in your way you're parenting, in your employment area, whatever area that is, be an example of greatness. Today's job can lead to tomorrow's career, so take it serious. This is especially for those young people who are just starting out in their careers. You forget that a lot of times when you're done being the lifeguard maybe at the pool for the summer, you forget that a lot of times the referrals that you get off of that, the manager that you worked for that realized that you would come in early, you would stay late, you would go above and beyond, you would take training that originally maybe we didn't think you were going to need, but then you were willing to take it so that you could be a valuable part of the team. Those things not only look great on your resume, but ultimately they can lead to really some open doors within your careers in those next 5 or 10 years. And those referrals off of those early jobs and people just feeling like, oh, you learn so fast, you're so easy to be with, you're a great team member. You're the person that jumps in and really learns about a product or really learns about a process to make sure that you're doing it right. You're the person that treats other employees and other customers with greatness. You are that customer service ninja. And that beautiful skill, it's such a unique and important skill, and it follows you for the rest of your career. Be that person. Be that person that maybe even early on in your career, you're establishing that you are an example of greatness, and let those referrals speak for themselves. So be a customer service ninja. If you'd like to do some one-on-one training, if you feel like maybe your staff needs some one-on-one training, we have some different products and training for those types of things. Please just reach out through my email at flossymaude@yahoo.com. We'd love to help you. This is something I'm super passionate about, and I just think every employer, whether you do a small product and just have some one-on-ones, or whether you do a big, like, all-staff event, your staff could really, really grow from this your business can grow. You'll retain your employees longer. And if you're doing this from a personal perspective, imagine the growth. Imagine the personal growth that you can have when you overcome some of that negativity, some of that self-confidence issue, your inability to handle some really difficult circumstances. When you start to really hone in on that skill, you're going to find like the sky is the limit. Hooked on Sunshine. Glad to be here with you this Sunday. Hope you guys have a great day, and take care.